Third story: The Flower Garden of the Woman Who Knew Magic. But what did Gerda think when Kay did not return? No one knew what had really happened to him. The boys could only say that they had seen him tie his sled to another very large one, which had driven along the street and out through the town gate. Nobody knew what had become of him. Many tears were shed, and little Gerda cried long and bitterly. Then they said he was dead. He had drowned in a river that flowed by the town. Oh, those were long, dark winter days. Then spring came, with its warm sunshine. "Kay is dead and gone," said little Gerda. "I don't believe it," said the sunshine. "He's dead and gone," said she to the swallows. "We don't believe it," they replied, until finally Gerda did not believe it herself. "I will take my new red shoes," she said one morning, "the ones that Kay has never seen, and I will go down to the river and ask it about him." It was still very early. She kissed the grandmother, who was still asleep, took her red shoes, and went all alone through the town gate down to the river. "Is it true that you have taken my friend? I will make you a present of my red shoes if you will give him back to me." And it seemed to her as if the waves nodded strangely, and then she took her red shoes, which she liked more than anything she owned, and threw them into the river. But they fell close to the bank, and the little waves washed them back to the land again. It seemed as if the river would not take from her the dearest things she had, because it didn't have her friend Kay. But she simply thought she had not thrown the shoes out far enough, so she climbed into a boat that lay among the reeds, went to the further end of the boat, and threw the shoes into the water again. The boat was not made fast, however, and her movement caused it to drift away from the shore. She noticed it and hurried to get back, but before she reached the other end of the boat, it was a yard from the bank, and was floating quickly away. Then Gerda was very frightened and began to cry. But no one heard her except the sparrows, and they could not carry her to land. They flew along the bank and sang, as if to console her, "Here we are, here we are." The boat drifted downstream, and little Gerda sat quite still in her stockings. Her little red shoes floated along behind, but they could not catch up with the boat, which drifted faster. It was very pretty on both sides. There were beautiful flowers, old trees, and slopes with sheep and cows, but not a human being was to be seen anywhere. "Perhaps the river will carry me to little Kay," thought Gerda. Then she became more cheerful and stood up, and for many hours she watched the pretty green banks. At last she came to a big cherry orchard, where there was a little house with curious blue and red windows. It had a thatched roof, and in front stood two wooden soldiers who presented arms to those who sailed past. Gerda called out to them, for she thought they were alive, but of course they could not answer. The river carried the boat in towards the shore. Gerda called out still louder, and then out of the house came an old woman leaning on a crutch. She had on a big sun hat painted with the loveliest flowers. "You poor child," said the old woman. "How did you manage to come on the great river and to float so far out into the wide world?" And then the old woman waded into the water, hooked the boat with her crutch, drew it to land, and lifted Gerda out. Gerda was glad to be on the dry land again, though she felt a little afraid of the strange old woman. "Come and tell me who you are and how you got here," she said. And Gerda told her everything. The old woman shook her head and said, "Hmm. Gerda asked her if she had seen Kay. The woman said no, that he had not yet come by, but that he probably would come soon. In any case, Gerda shouldn't feel sad, but should taste her cherries and look at the flowers, for they were better than any picture book. Each one of them could tell a story. Then she took Gerda by the hand and led her into the little house, and the old woman locked the door after them. The windows were very high, and the panes were red, blue, and yellow, so that the daylight shone in a strange many-colored way. On the table stood the finest cherries, and Gerda ate as many as she liked, for she had been told she could. While she was eating them, the old woman combed Gerda's hair with a golden comb, and her hair curled and shone like lovely gold around her sweet little face, which was as round and as blooming as a rose. "I have long wished for a dear little girl like you," said the old woman. "Now you will see how well we shall get on together." And the more she combed Gerda's hair, the more Gerda forgot her playmate Kay, for this old woman could work magic. Though she was not a wicked witch, she only dabbled in a little magic for her own amusement, and now only because she wanted to keep little Gerda. She went into the garden, pointed her crutch towards all the rose bushes, and as beautiful as they were, they all sank into the black earth until no one could tell where they had stood. The old woman was afraid that if Gerda saw roses, she would think of her own, remember Kay, and run away. Then she took Gerda out into the flower garden. Every flower you could think of was there in full bloom. Not only spring flowers, but summer, autumn flowers too, and their lovely fragrance filled the air. No picture book could be gayer and prettier. Gerda jumped for joy and played until the sun went down behind the tall cherry trees. Then she was put into a lovely bed with red silk pillows stuffed with blue violets, and she slept there and dreamed as happily as a queen on her wedding day. Next day she played again with the flowers in the warm sunshine, and so many days went by. Gerda got to know every flower, but it always seemed to her that one was missing. Though which one it was, she did not know. One day she sat looking at the old woman's sun hat with painted flowers, and it so happened that the prettiest of them all was a rose. The old woman had forgotten to remove it from her hat when she made the other roses sink into the ground. "What? Are there no roses here?" cried Gerda. She went among the flower beds and searched, but there was not one rose to be found. Then she sat down and cried, and her hot tears fell just upon a spot where a rose tree lay buried. When the warm tears moistened the earth, the tree shot up again, as blooming as when it had sunk. Gerda kissed the roses, thought of the beautiful ones at home, and with them of little Kay. "Oh, how I have been wasting my time," said the little girl. "I who ought to have been looking for Kay." "Do you know where he is?" she asked the roses. "Do you think he is dead?" "He is not dead," said the roses. "We have been in the ground. All the dead people are there, but Kay isn't there." "Thank you," said Gerda. She went to the other flowers, looked into their cups, and asked, "Do you not know where Kay is?" Every flower stood in the sun, thinking only of her own story or fairy tale. Little Gerda heard many of them, but not one knew anything of Kay. And what did the tiger lily say? Do you hear the drum go rub-a-dub? There are only 3 notes, always rub-a-dub. Hear the funeral chant of the women. Hear the call of the priests. The Hindu woman stands in her long red robe on the funeral pile. The flames rise up around her and her dead husband. But the Hindu woman is thinking of the living one here in the circle, of him whose eyes burn hotter than the flames, whose glances burn in her soul more ardently than the flames themselves, which are soon to burn her body to ashes. Can the flames of the heart die in the flames of the funeral pile? "I don't understand that at all," said little Gerda. "That is my story," said the tiger lily. What does the morning glory say? Over the narrow mountain path hangs an old knight's castle. The ivy grows thick over the crumbling red walls, leaf by leaf up to the balcony, and there stands a beautiful girl. She leans over the balustrade and gazes up the path. No rose on its stem is fresher than she. No apple blossom wafted by the wind floats more lightly along. How her costly silk rustle! Will he never come? "Is it Kay, you mean?" asked little Gerda. "I am only talking of my own story, my dream," replied Morning Glory. What did the little snowdrop say? Between 2 trees a board is hanging on ropes. It is a swing. 2 pretty little girls with dresses as white as snow and green silk ribbons on their hats are sitting on it, swinging. Their brother, who is bigger than they are, stands on a swing with his arm around the rope to hold himself, for in one hand he has a little bowl and in the other a clay pipe. He is blowing soap bubbles. The swing moves and the bubbles fly up with the beautiful changing colors. The last one still hangs from the bowl of the pipe, swayed by the wind. The swing moves to and fro. A little black dog, light as the bubbles, stands up on its hind legs and wants to be taken into the swing. It goes on, and the dog falls and barks with anger. The bubbles burst. A swinging board and a shimmering foam picture. That is my song. It may be very pretty, but you speak so sadly, and you don't mention little Kay at all. What do the hyacinths say? There were 3 beautiful sisters, transparent and delicate. One's dress was red, the second blue, the third pure white. Hand in hand, they danced by the calm lake in the bright moonlight. They were not elves, but of humans born. It was so sweet and fragrant there. The girls disappeared in the forest, and fragrance became sweeter still. 3 coffins, with the 3 beautiful maidens lying in them, glided from the thickest across the lake. The fireflies flew around them like little hovering lights. Are the dancing girls sleeping, or are they dead? The flower scent says they are dead. The evening bell tolls their knell. You make me very sad, said Gerda. Your scent is so strong. I can't help but thinking of the dead maidens. Oh, is Kay really dead? The roses have been down under the ground, and they said no. Ding dong rang the hyacinth bells. We are not tolling for little Kay. We do not know him. We only sing our song, the only one we know. And Gerda went to the buttercup, shining out among the green leaves. You are a little bright sun, said Gerda. Tell me, if you know, where shall I find my friend? The buttercup shone gaily and looked back at Gerda. What song could the buttercup sing? It was not about Kay. In a little country yard, God's bright sun shone warm on the first day of spring. The sunbeams glided down the white wall of the neighboring house. Close by grew the first yellow flower, shining like gold in the bright sunbeams. An old grandmother sat outdoors in her chair. Her pretty granddaughter, a poor serving girl, home for a short visit, kissed her grandmother. There was gold, heart's gold, in that blessed kiss. Gold on the lips, gold on the ground, gold in the morning hour. See, that is my little story, said the buttercup. Poor grandmother, sighed Gerda. Yes, she is surely longing for me and grieving for me, just as she did for little Kay. But soon I shall go home again and bring Kay with me. There is no use in my asking the flowers. They only know their own song and give me no information. Then she pulled up her skirt so that she might run faster, but the jonquil stuck her on a leg as she jumped over it, and she stopped to look at the tall flower. Do you, perhaps, know anything? She asked. She bent close down to the flower. I can see myself, I can see myself, said the jonquil. Oh, how sweet I smell! Up in a little attic stands a little dancing girl, half dressed. She stands sometimes on one foot, sometimes on both. She seems to tread on the whole world. She is nothing but a delusion. She pours water out of a teapot on a bit of stuff. It is her bodice. Cleanliness is a good thing, she says. Her white frock hangs on a hook. It has been washed in the teapot too, and dried on a roof. She puts it on and ties her saffron kerchief around her neck, and the dress looks even wider. Point your toes. Look how she seems to stand on a stalk. I can see myself. I can see myself. I don't care at all about that, said Gerda. It's no use you telling me. Then she ran to the end of the garden. The door was locked, but she pressed against the rusty latch. It gave way. The door sprang open, and little Gerda ran with bare feet out into the wide world. She looked back 3 times, but no one came after her. At last she could run no more, and she sat down on a big stone. When she looked around, she saw that summer was over. It was already late autumn. No one could know that in the beautiful garden, where there was always sunshine, and where the flowers of every season were blooming. "Dear me, how much time have I lost?" said Gerda. "It's already autumn. I mustn't stay any longer." She got up to go. How sore and tired her feet were! Everything looked cold and bleak. The long willow leaves were yellow, and mist dripped from the trees like rain. One leaf dropped after another. Only the wild plum still bore fruit, but the fruit was sour and set one's teeth on edge. Oh, how gray and gloomy it looked out in the wide world!